This all happened over the course of 3 or 4 years when I was a kid. I can't remember exactly how old I was when it started, maybe 8 or 9, but I do remember the dreams. They were always the same. Every couple of months, I'd have this recurring, half-lucid nightmare. The kind where you know you're dreaming, but that knowledge doesn't bring any comfort. If anything, it made the fear worse. The dream always began the same way. I was lying in bed, but I wasn't seeing through my own eyes. It was like I was floating near the ceiling, watching myself sleep. Picture a security camera feed, grainy and gray, aimed down at a still version of myself in bed. That out-of-body sensation always made my skin crawl. I'd try to move, try to swim back down into my body, but I couldn't. All I could do was swivel my head slightly, just enough to glance around the room. It looked exactly like my bedroom, but it was always off. The first thing I'd notice was the digital clock on my nightstand. It always ticked backwards, the numbers counting down to something unknown. Then the drawings would catch my childlike crayon pictures taped to the walls and dresser. I'd never seen them before in real life, and I wasn't the kind of kid who drew much, but there they were. Every time, the drawings were the same, a row of smiling people holding hands, standing in front of a house with a blue roof. One smaller figure, me, I think, stood in the middle. Then I'd spot my old toy train. The one I had lost years before. It would always be sitting in a different place on the floor. Not hidden. Not buried. Just there, like someone had been playing with it. Eventually, I'd get the urge to look out my window. And when I did, every single time, he would be there. Just inches from the glass. A man. He had short gray hair and a faint but unmistakable scar on his left temple. That's all I could ever make out before the fear overtook me. He never said anything. Never moved at first. He'd just stand there and stare at my sleeping body for a few seconds. Then, like clockwork, he would start clawing at the window, frantically trying to open it. That's when I would always wake up, gasping, sweating, sometimes crying. Sometimes I ran to the window, expecting to find claw marks or fingerprints. Sometimes I was too paralyzed to move. But no matter what I did, there was never anything there. After the 4th time, I finally told my parents. My mom assured me that recurring dreams were common at my age. My dad reminded me that they were just down the hall if I ever got scared. I nodded like that helped, but it didn't. My dad could tell. He took me outside the next day, barefoot on the cold morning concrete, and walked me around the house to check everything out. No footprints. No marks on the window. Nothing. That was a year in. I'd had the dream 4 times at that point, always the same. So even as a kid, I knew it meant something. But then, they stopped. 6 months passed without a single nightmare. Eventually, I let myself believe they were over. I went back to being a normal kid. Until the night it came back. Everything was the same out-of-body view, same backward clock, same creepy drawings, but something felt wrong. More wrong than usual. And then I saw it. My bedroom window was open. I woke up instantly. But I couldn't move. 5 full minutes of total paralysis. My brain was screaming at me to check the window, to do something, but my body wouldn't budge. I felt cold, like a breeze was coming through the room. I was convinced that the man was just outside, this time he was getting in. When I finally regained control, I leapt out of bed and ran to the window. Locked. Tightly. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I just sat there, watching the glass. After that, I started prepping myself for the dream before bed. I'd spend time every night thinking about it, trying to get ahead of it somehow. I figured if I was expecting the dream, it wouldn't be as scary. Surprisingly, it worked. The next time I had it, I wasn't as terrified. Eventually, I stopped checking the window after waking up. But the dreams still lingered. Enough that I brought them up to my parents again. This time, they listened more carefully. I described every detail, the floating perspective, the drawings, the toy train. But it was when I mentioned the man, the scar on his temple, that something changed. My dad froze. He interrupted me, asked if I was sure about the scar. I said I was. He looked at my mom. Neither said a word for a moment. I asked what was going on. They both brushed it off. That night, they sat me down. My mom did most of the talking. She told me there was a man named Brian. Someone who used to watch me when I was really little, too young to remember. He wasn't family, just a close friend of my dad's from college. He was around a lot when I was a toddler, especially when my parents were both working. Then something happened. My dad wouldn't tell me what, only that there had been a falling out. Something serious. Bad enough that he forbade Brian from ever coming near me again. Then my mom mentioned something else, something that made my blood run cold. Brian had a scar on his forehead. From a car accident. Years before I was even born. They didn't have to say it. I made the connection on my own. That night, after my mom went to bed, my dad stayed up with me a while longer. He told me he had a theory. He believed the dreams were my brain's way of processing something deeply buried, a memory from before I was even capable of understanding it. He said I used to be very close with Brian. Apparently, I would cry when he left and beg for him to be the one to read me to sleep. My dad said he couldn't explain how I remembered the scar. But he was sure it wasn't just my imagination. I never remembered Brian. Still don't. Not a single thing. But I believed my dad. After that conversation, the dreams happened maybe once or twice over the next year. Nothing frequent. Then, in year 4, something changed. One night, I woke up from the dream and saw something move. Just a flicker, barely perceptible, but something moved just outside my window. All that fear I had spent years suppressing came rushing back tenfold. I screamed. My parents came running. My dad tore outside barefoot. My mom held me in the hallway, her arms trembling around me. Eventually, my dad came back in, whispering something to her. They called the police. Or at least, they said they did. I stayed in their room the rest of the night. I don't remember hearing any sirens. No radios. No officer voices. The next day, my dad told me he had seen faint footprints in the dirt beneath my window. I asked if he thought it was Brian. He said no, that Brian didn't even know where we lived. He promised me nothing bad was ever going to happen again. And he was right. I never had the dream again. To this day, my parents won't talk about that night. I've stopped asking. But I still wonder, every now and then, what was really happening. Was there really someone outside my window, watching me as I slept, for years? Was it Brian? Or someone else entirely, some stranger my brain twisted into the form of a long-forgotten man? I'll never know. But here's what I do know. I'm 95% sure my parents never actually called the police that night. And I'll probably never get an explanation for why.